Welcome. Let's read this problem. We have a definite integral from 0 to pi over 4 of the sine of x dx plus another definite integral from negative pi over 4 to 0 of the cosine x dx. And we are to find the sum of those two integrals. So it's not necessary to do this, but I think I would like to sketch out what our functions look like. And so I've got an x and a y-axis here. I've labeled 1 and negative 1 on the y-axis and now put 2 pi and pi on the x-axis. And let's see, pi over 2 would be about there, and we care about where pi over 4 is, so I better show that. And we also have negatives. So let's show where negative pi is and negative 2 pi is. Let's see, negative pi over 2 would be about there, negative pi over 4, we want that. Let's show where that is. Okay, let's first graph the sine function. Sine function looks something like this. Passes through pi and it completes its cycle over there at 2 pi. And let's show the area under the curve between 0 and pi over 4 because that's what the integral gives us. And now let's do the second function. It's the cosine function, and we're drawing it on the negative side because we want the area under the curve between negative pi over 4 and 0. Okay, and so what we're trying to find are what do those two areas add up to? And you can estimate maybe, but we want to be a little bit more precise on this. As a matter of fact, we want to be exact. And so we want to evaluate these trigonometric integrals. There are two important trigonometric integrals that you should know, that you should have memorized, and one is that the sine of x dx is equal to, the antiderivative is equal to negative cosine x, and we'll put plus c when we're talking about an indefinite integral. And you also should know that the integral of cosine of x dx is equal to sine x plus c. Those are definitely needed in this problem, and it's a good thing to have this memorized. Matter of fact, it's almost essential to have this memorized. So what's our first step? Our first step is to integrate. And we'll just, I'll just rewrite the problem here so you can see it. It was from 0 to pi over 4, the integral from 0 to pi over 4 of sine x dx plus, and the integral from negative pi over 4 to 0 of cosine x dx. And we know how to integrate that now. We just stated what the integral of sine x is. It's negative cosine x. So we'll write it out as negative cosine x and show our limits of integration from 0 to pi over 4. To that we want to add the, we want to integrate cosine x, and we've said that that's equal to sine x, and our limits of integration are from to 0 from negative pi over 4. And we've integrated. So next step is to just evaluate the limits of integration. We are going to plug in our limits of integration. So we're evaluating the limits of integration. And let me once again rewrite what we have up above. We have negative cosine of x, and our limits of integration there were from 0 to pi over 4. And we want to add to that the sine of x with the limits of integration of negative pi over 4 to 0. And so what does that equal to? Well, we're just going to first write negative cosine and plug in its place its upper limit of integration, which is pi over 4. And then subtract from that. Don't forget we're subtracting the negative cosine again. We want negative cosine of, and the lower limit is 0. So we put that in, and we've then evaluated, well, we've partially evaluated the cosine, and now let's add to that the sine of x. And so we want to write the sine of x and then its upper limit, which is 0, and then subtract from that the sine again of, and we're plugging in negative pi over 4. So subtract the sine of negative pi over 4. Now on the AP exam, this type of problem would be in the section where you're allowed to use the calculator. And so we will. But I have a confession to make. The first time I entered this in practice, I made a mistake in entering it in and came up with the wrong answer. So be very, very careful. And this is just about where I made my mistake. I put in the cosine of 0, and I only closed one parenthesis, and I needed to have two parentheses closed there, like I've done this time correctly, I hope. And so it's just essential that if you're going to use the calculator on this exam, that you be very, very accurate in entering in your values. Okay, so this time, let's see, minus pi over 4. I'm just copying in to the calculator what I have over on the right, and I think I've got it all entered in correctly, and so nothing left to do but hit enter, and I get the answer of 1, which is a good thing because I happen to know that is the answer. Now we don't have to use our calculator on this problem. We could have evaluated that without the calculator, and hopefully you have memorized what the cosine of pi over 4 is. That's the square root of 2 over 2, and we wanted to put a minus sign in front of that, and then we're going to subtract a negative, so we want to put a negative, and then the cosine of 0 is 1, so subtract a negative 1 plus what's the sine of 0? That's 0. And then we want to let's see, I put a, oops, I think I made a mistake here. Oh yes, I want to put a subtract the sine of negative pi over 4, and that is negative the square root of 2 over 2. So you might need to use a unit circle, maybe make a quick unit circle so you get these values correct, and I think I have them correct now. And so let's simplify this. We have negative square root of 2 over 2 minus negative 1, that would be plus 1 plus 0, and then this now reads, should read subtract a negative square root of 2 over 2, which would be add square root of 2 over 2. Those square root of 2 over 2's cancel out, and we end up with 1. So there's our answer. And that's all we have time for. See ya.